Hello there, geeks and gamers. It is I, Jesse Milestone, bringing you super fluffy hair and discussions about diversity. Because if you have been alive at all at any point in the past decade or so, you're aware that discussions of diversity and diversity quotas and making sure every place is more diverse have dominated a lot of the discussions today. And I'm here to talk about that, but not in the way that you're used to hearing about it. I'm here to talk about the fact that diversity quotas, these struggles and pushes for diversity, this is a privilege. This is to be able to have these discussions, to be talking about this, to be so concerned, to have your primary chief concern be, did we cast enough people of color in this movie? Do we have enough writers? Do we have enough gay writers in the writer's room for this movie, for this television show? If those are your chief concerns regarding diversity and progress in this country, you are stupid privileged. You are stupid privileged. Why is this important? Why are we talking about it in these contexts? Visibility, that's all. It's all virtue signaling. It's all so that I can say that I can stand up there and say, hey, here you go, I made diversity happen in a way where you can tangibly see it, in a way where I'm getting press coverage, I can talk about it in the news and show you all how great and good I am. This is being done by so many white men, first of all, in Hollywood, so many white men. Why aren't you giving up? If diversity is so important to you, why aren't you giving up your own roles and positions to other people, to more diverse people, if it's so important? Because it's not. It's just important for you to show it off. We talk about diversity on boards, on CEO, like for corporations and stuff. We talk about diversity on the board. Once again, these highbrow, white-collar professions with great visibility that are getting write-ups in business publications. Oh, look at us. Look at the women we have on our board. Look at the refugees we put on our board. Good for us. Be proud of us. You know what you don't hear? You don't hear about someone driving down the street, looking up at a construction project going, huh, there's all men on the roof. Why aren't there any women? My daughter can't know that she's allowed to become a construction worker unless she sees more women on that roof doing construction. I better go write my local congressperson about the lack of diversity in the roofers union. I'm gonna go write my congressperson about the lack of female plumbers in the world, about the lack of gay carpenters. This is a problem for me and I need it addressed. Why don't people do that? Because these people are busy working their butts off trying to make a damn living. If you really care about diversity, if diversity is so important to you and it's so important that everybody is represented everywhere, then you should be writing your congresspeople about having more female roofers and more male strippers. Personally, honestly, I'm totally fine with more male strippers. That's totally cool with me. But that's not what it's about. It's about visibility. When we talk about things like that, oh, the wage gap and women getting the same opportunities at these highest levels as men. What about the lowest levels? What about the lowest levels? Are we not concerned about that? Is there sexism? Are there stereotypes and pushback against women joining construction teams and things like that? Probably. There probably are. Are we talking about them? Nope. Why don't we have big news stories about how freaking hard it is for a female to become a saber referee in the U.S.? I know a lot about that because I did it. We don't have stories about that. Why? There's no money in that. There's no virtue to signal in that. There's nothing to be gained from making sure that these blue-collar, hard-working, stiff jobs have diversity. And also, people understand intuitively that a job like construction is better served by having the most qualified person. Nobody in their right mind is ever going to say, oh, well, let's take this underqualified gay man to be on this construction team, this underqualified woman, because we need to signal our virtue by having more diversity here. Everyone's going to look at that and be like, if you do that, people are going to die. Because you are not going to have the best workers you can be working with their hands, with giant pieces of equipment, with heavy machinery, people who are not as trained as the next guy doing these jobs. You're going to have a less high quality of work, which could jeopardize the people inhabiting the building later, and you have more higher odds of accidents on the construction site, which means people dying, because that makes sense. So if it makes so much sense in these other walks of life, we are going to take the most qualified person for the job, irrespective of their diversity quota, because we need the job to be done best. Why doesn't this apply to actors, to writers, to producers, to CEOs? It absolutely should. Because the same thing happens. Maybe people don't die when you have a shoddy level of work, but people lose jobs. People's lives and livelihoods are affected when you don't do your work as well because you're more concerned about the color of people in the room than the quality of the work they're capable of doing. And while we're on the subject of diversity in the workplace and making sure equal pay is happening, right? There's this problem with diversity today where equality is not about equality anymore. It's about making sure that the people who have been classically underprivileged get all of the things. And the reality is that have always been institutions and elements that are unfair to men as well. Are there more? I don't know. I don't keep a notebook of what is more and less unfair. I don't believe in quantifying or qualifying injustice in that way. I don't believe in the oppression Olympics. I don't think that we need to quantify people's suffering or struggles or hardship, but I do feel that it's important to acknowledge that everybody struggles and has hardships, and there are certain hardships that men face that women don't. For example, divorce court. Divorce court has always been biased towards the woman, even when she's insane. I have known people who are still in multi-year and half-decade-long custody battles because their inequipped ex-spouse is automatically given more rights to the child just because she's female. And the effort, the hoops they have to jump through, the proof they have to bring to bear in order to get access to their children in some cases is absolutely nutso. In fact, back when you had activist groups trying to prove that laws were written with gender bias, they actually addressed caretaker laws because they were biased against men. This was at the time when literally every lawmaker was a man, to get the men to be like, oh, this is a problem. I was like, hey guys, you're suffering from this too. Oh my God, we are. And that's where this started. Let's root out injustice. Not injustice against women, not injustice against this minority or that minority, injustice, period. Equality is a game about making sure we all have the equal opportunities. So let's take a look at the modeling industry. Where's the outcry about the fact that male models make significantly less than female models? Where are the issues with that? Whereas they're going through the same things. They're both starving themselves and going through unnatural and necessary diets and exercise regimens to keep themselves absurdly thin or jacked or this or that. They're going through all similar hardships in that regard. Why are they getting paid so much less than their female counterparts? And look, this is coming from someone, I'm not a men's rights activist by any stretch of the imagination. I just think that if you're going to address inequality, you can't pick and choose which bits of inequality are okay and which ones are. You can't choose where justice shows and where it doesn't. If diversity quotas are so important, they should be important in every profession. But to understand that that's not realistic and not feasible means that you should understand that it's not important in the upper echelons of society, in the visible professions, the same way it's not important in a construction job or a plumbing job or a strip joint. Christ, you have a strip joint with women in it. You can't throw a man on there. That's ridiculous. You go to a male strip club for male strippers. You go to a female strip club for female strippers. Right, Jeremy? Bet Jeremy knows all about the male strip clubs. Anyway, this was something that was, I've talked to Jeremy about this, and it's so absurd. And I really think that when you take a look at other echelons of society, at blue-collar workers and blue-collar professions, to see just how absurd this diversity argument is when it's applied there, really highlights how it is equally absurd in the way it's being applied today. So when you have the luxury to sit back and go, we should think more about putting diversity into the world, you should really sit back, take a look at your own privilege for a second, understand what elements of the world you're not seeing, try to find some more serious battles that you can go out and spend your time fighting. So that's what I got to say about that. If you guys like what you hear and you want to see more of me, you can check out my channel, Mindless Entertainment. Otherwise, I'll be back to talk to you again next week. Bye.